Well, hey, sixth graders, it's Friday. Congrats, you made it through another week. Very proud of you. And we made it through another unit. We've done Rome, and now we're wrapping up Greece today. You guys are like Grease lightning. We're going through history so fast in this format. See what I did there? Grease lightning. See. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the reign of Alexander the Great and his legacies and whether or not he was so great or not. So, if we're going to talk about Alexander, we got to start with talking about his dad. That handsome fella is Philip of Macedon, King Philip II. And Philip is crowned king of Macedonia, which is the land to the north of Greece, but it does extend for a part of it into the Balkan Peninsula. And he is a big fan of Hellenism and Hellenistic culture, and is quite the general, is really good at conquering and organizing. And within a small amount of time, he's able to extend his rule from Macedonia here all the way down into Greece, with the exclusion, of course, of Sparta, because those Spartans are tough, and into areas all the way to the Black Sea. So he's able to conquer Greece in his lifetime, and he wants his son, Alexander, to kind of continue his model, and also to understand Greek culture and Greek ways of life, aka Hellenism. So he hires the greatest teacher that was alive at that time in all of Greece to be his tutor. That was kind of forces him, because he conquered them, was ruling over them. Anyway, he makes Alexander, his son, learn from the famed Aristotle, the philosopher. And Alexander kind of, as a future leader, gets the best of both worlds. He learns about military leadership, fighting styles, and how to be a general from his dad, who was exceptional at it. But he learns about art, science, philosophy, culture, literature, all those things from Aristotle. So he almost becomes the model of Plato's quote philosopher king, this great mind who now will be in a position to wield great power. And he shows from a real early age that he has this unusual talent for leadership. Common story about him: when he was 13, there's this horse, Bucephalus, who was seen to be wild, indomitable, just, would beat, kill anybody who tried to ride it. And here comes this little kid, Alexander, who's able to tame this horse and would use it for the rest of his life. It was his prized companion. So Philip will be assassinated, and now Alexander inherits rule of all of Macedonia and all of Greece when he's only 20 years old. And terms here, he would be a couple years out of high school, and now he's ruling an empire. Well, like his dad, who wanted to extend that empire, Alex shares the same ambition. His father wanted to conquer the Persian Empire, and Alexander continues that work. And we're going to see that he's going to defeat the Persian army time and time again, pushing them further and further and further east. And he'll even counter the Persian king multiple times on the battlefield, King Darius, almost obsessively wanting to kill him by his own hand, which he won't. Darius will die, and one of Alexander's generals, who actually will kill Darius before him, Alexander will have killed because he killed the guy he wanted to kill. Not so nice. Anyway, as he's pushing back the Persians, he also turns south and goes into Africa and pushes the Persians out of Egypt. When he's in Egypt, he's greeted as a liberator. The Persians weren't really great to them, and they named Alexander as the new king or pharaoh of Egypt. From there, he pushes the Persians further and further, conquering all their major cities: the city of Babylon, which was the center of Mesopotamia, and eventually makes his way to Persepolis, which was the capital of the Persian Empire, and will name himself the king of all of Asia. And he does this all before the time he's 30. In 10 years, he conquers pretty much most of the known world. And then he wants to go into the areas where the Greek civilization didn't really know much about. Further east into the areas of Asia, into what we presently call India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. There, his army is going to conquer military forces unlike any that anyone from the West had ever seen. Armies of elephants. And yet Alexander continues to win and win and win. He will conquer all the way as far as the Indus River in present-day Pakistan until his army is like, dude, we've been at war for 10 years. We'd like to kind of have some normalcy. And they start moving back to Babylon, where Alexander is planning on running and making the center of his empire. But things won't work out so great for Alexander. When he gets to Babylon, he will get an illness, a type of fever, maybe typhoid fever, we don't know for sure, but he gets a very strong fever and dies at age 32. So in 12 years, this 20-year-old guy pretty much conquers all that he knew about the world. Pretty crazy. Alexander doesn't leave a long legacy for his empire, though. His generals will split it into three. One controlling the areas of the former Persian Empire in the east, one controlling the Egyptian areas in the southern part, and then one controlling the Greek areas in the north. But that's not the end of his story. Alexander built cities wherever he conquered. In fact, he named all of them Alexandria. 14 different Alexandrias were established throughout his empire. I mean, how did it get a bit confusing, right? All right, send these supplies to Alexandria. Which one, dude? A bit confused here. He did name one after his horse, Bucephalus, so yeah, that going for him. But the most famous of these cities is this one, Alexandria in Egypt. Here you see the Pharaoh's lighthouse that was built in Alexandria and was one of the wonders of the ancient world. Alexandria, which is right on the Nile Delta, where the Nile and the Mediterranean Sea meet, will become a center of learning. It'll become a center of arts and culture. In Alexandria, a large library will be built and established by Alexander that was going to preserve many of the classical writings of all time, and will be one of the largest libraries of the ancient world ever built. And when Alexander is conquering, he spreads Greek ideas, Greek culture, Hellenistic culture throughout each place. When we look in areas where Alexander was, we can see Greek architecture. We can see elements of the Greek language. In fact, for much of ancient history, Greek will be the common language that will be used throughout Europe and Asia for people for trade and commerce and diplomacy. We can see Greek art styles. We can see Greek forms of literature, even elements of Greek mythology, all brought throughout all these areas of the world. Archaeologists in Afghanistan have found coins from Afghanistan with their king on them, with the word king written in Greek. So that's how far those ideals would spread. And Alexander would leave behind a world that was a lot more closely connected and would be able to trade and communicate a lot more efficiently with people than ever before. So, so that wraps up today's lesson. Your question today is, why do you think Alexander of Macedon is often referred to in history as Alexander the Great? And should he be labeled this way? Should anybody be labeled this way? Is anybody truly worthy of the title great? What would somebody have to do to be labeled great? Deep questions. Think on it. And I look forward to reading your answers. I will see you on Tuesday because it's Memorial Day weekend. You have a 3-day weekend. Yay! So enjoy your weekend. Have a great time. I miss you all. If you have a family member who is a veteran, make sure you take the time to thank them and enjoy your Memorial weekend. See you on Tuesday where we're going to begin the Middle Ages. Fun.